They showed up early in the morning, 5 men wearing vests that said HOA enforcement, holding clipboards and what seemed to be real guns. They thought they were attacking a regular rancher who hadn't followed their fake rules. They didn't know they were walking onto land owned by a Navy SEAL who had spent 15 years getting ready for dangers much worse than neighborhood rulemakers with plastic badges. Before we start the story, please comment where you're watching from and subscribe to the channel. I never thought I'd find peace after 15 years as a Navy SEAL, but my ranch changed everything. My name is Jack Miller, and these 200 acres of Montana land saved my soul. Every morning starts the same, up before the sun, coffee on the porch, watching the mountains turn gold as dawn breaks. No gunfire, no shouting, no death. Just me, my 3 dogs, and a silence so deep it heals the broken parts inside me. I bought this place 5 years ago after my last tour. Couldn't sleep in cities anymore, too many cars, too many people, too many sounds that sent my mind back to war zones. Out here I control what happens. I know every inch of my land, every tree, every hill. Most folks think I'm just a simple rancher. They don't see the security cameras hidden in the barn's weathered wood. They don't notice the motion sensors disguised as garden lights along the driveway, or the reinforced doors, or the emergency bunker beneath the tool shed. Old habits die hard, and preparation kept me alive too many times to stop now. The nearest town is 20 miles away, small place called Pine Creek. I go in once a week for supplies. People there are friendly but mind their business. They know I was military but don't ask questions. Just nod respectfully, maybe chat about the weather or cattle prices. My neighbors are spread out. The Johnson family owns the property to the east, good people. 3 kids who sometimes wave when they ride their horses along the fence line. To the west is Old Man Clarkson, who fought in Vietnam and understands why I sometimes sit all night on my porch just watching. We don't talk much, but we understand each other. The simple life suits me. Wake up, tend to my small herd of cattle, fix what needs fixing, watch the sunset with a cold beer. No commanders giving orders, no missions keeping me awake at night. Just peace, quiet, and time to finally let my guard down. Or at least, that's what I thought before the HOA people showed up with their clipboards and fake badges, trying to tell me what I could and couldn't do on my own damn land. It started with a paper stuck to my gate. I was driving back from town when I spotted it, bright blue, laminated, official looking. I stopped my truck, got out, and pulled it off. Notice of violation. It read in big black letters. Mountain Valley Homeowners Association has documented the following infractions on your property. I stared at it, confused. Homeowners Association? Out here in ranch country? The notice listed 3 violations: unapproved fence height, non-compliant mailbox design, and excessive agricultural activity visible from community roadways. At the bottom was a signature, Karen Wellington, MVHOA President, and a phone number. I crumpled the paper and tossed it in my truck. Had to be some kind of mistake or prank. A week later, I got an envelope in the mail. Inside was a 5-page welcome packet from the Mountain Valley HOA, complete with a rulebook, payment instructions for monthly dues, and color samples for approved exterior paint colors. According to this packet, my ranch was part of a developing planned community, and subject to their rules. I knew this was complete nonsense. I checked every inch of my property records before buying this place. There was no HOA, no covenant, no restrictions. My land was my land, free and clear. 3 days later, while fixing a fence post at the edge of my property, a shiny black SUV pulled up. A woman stepped out wearing a crisp blue blazer with some kind of badge pinned to it. Behind her, a man in khakis stayed by the car, typing on an iPad. "Mr. Miller?" the woman called, walking toward me with her hand extended. "I'm Karen Wellington, Mountain Valley HOA President. I see you haven't responded to our notices." I didn't shake her hand. "There's no HOA out here, ma'am." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Actually, there is. Mountain Valley Community District was established last year. Your property falls within our jurisdiction." "No, it doesn't," I said simply. "I checked all records before buying this place." Karen's smile tightened. "The incorporation was recent. We're bringing standards to this area to improve property values. Your ranch needs several adjustments to meet our guidelines." I leaned on my shovel. "This is private property. You're trespassing. Mr. Miller, we can do this the easy way or the hard way." She held out a folder. "These are your violations. You have 30 days to comply before fines begin." I didn't take the folder. "There's the gate," I said, pointing. "Use it." Her face hardened. "We're trying to create a beautiful, unified community. Your operation doesn't fit our vision." "Not my problem." As she turned to leave, she paused. "We have enforcement protocols for non-compliant residents, Mr. Miller. Don't make this difficult." Something in her tone triggered my old instincts, the same feeling I'd get before an ambush. This wasn't about rules or property values. This was about something else. After they left, I checked county records online. No HOA registration. Called my lawyer, who confirmed no legal HOA had been established. This was fake, but why? Who were these people and what did they really want with my land? The next 2 weeks brought more than just papers. Every morning I'd find new violation notices, sometimes on my gate, sometimes stuck to my barn door. Each one had more ridiculous claims than the last. My cattle were unapproved livestock. My American flag was oversized and non-regulation. Even my garden got a citation for unauthorized plant varieties. I ignored them all, but Karen and her team weren't giving up. They parked a car at the end of my driveway one day, just sitting there watching my house through binoculars. When I walked toward them, they drove away fast. The next day, a drone flew over my property, hovering above my barn, my house, my cattle pens. I recognized the surveillance pattern. We used similar techniques in the military to map target locations. I decided to find out who these people really were. In town, I asked Sheriff Davis if he knew anything about a Mountain Valley HOA. HOA? He laughed. Out here? No way. His smile dropped when I showed him the notices. This isn't right, Jack. There's no legal HOA in this county. Someone's pulling something. He did some digging and called me the next day. That Wellington woman? She works for Rocky Mountain Development Group. They're trying to buy up land to build some fancy resort. Been offering lowball prices to ranchers, but most folks aren't selling. Now it made sense. They couldn't force me to sell legally, so they were trying to harass me into giving up. The visits increased. Twice a week, Karen would show up with different men in matching polo shirts with fake badges. They'd walk my fence line, take pictures, write things down on clipboards. Once I caught them measuring my cattle gate with a tape measure. When I confronted them, they claimed they were conducting a standard compliance audit. "This is harassment," I told Karen during her 4th visit. "And it's not working." "Mr. Miller," she said, voice cold, "we have methods for dealing with stubborn cases. You're not the first person to resist progress." That night I found my mailbox smashed. The next morning, someone had cut a section of my fence, letting 3 of my cattle loose. I spent hours finding them and fixing the fence. When I checked my security cameras, I saw 3 men in MVHOA shirts doing the damage at 2 a.m. Their faces were hidden by caps, but their actions were clear. I reported it to Sheriff Davis, who promised to increase patrols near my ranch. "Be careful, Jack," he warned. "These developer types can play dirty when there's money involved." That night I got a phone call. No introduction, just a man's voice. "Sell now or things get worse. We're not asking any more." I installed more cameras, added motion-triggered lights around the property. My military training was kicking in: secure the perimeter, prepare for hostiles, remain vigilant. Then came the final straw. I returned from town to find an official-looking sign hammered into my front pasture: "Future home of Mountain Valley Resort, land acquired, construction beginning soon." They were claiming they'd already bought my ranch. This wasn't just harassment anymore. This was war. I'd had enough. Time to confront these people directly instead of just reacting to their games. After some research online, I found the address for the Mountain Valley Community Office, a rented storefront in a small strip mall 20 miles away. The next day, I drove there and found about 30 people gathered inside. Karen stood at the front with a large map showing all the ranches in the area. Mine was marked in red with the word "resistant" written across it. I walked in quietly and stood at the back. Nobody noticed me at first. "Phase 1 acquisition is nearly complete," Karen was saying. "We've secured 8 properties at target price. Phase 2 requires more persuasive methods for the holdouts." She clicked to a slide showing my ranch. "The Miller property is our priority target. Once we secure his 200 acres, the others will fall in line." A man in the audience raised his hand. "He's not responding to the notices or fines. What's the next step?" Karen smiled. "We move to enforcement. Mountain Valley Security will conduct a property sweep tomorrow at dawn. We'll document every violation, every issue. By the time we're done, he'll be facing so many fines and legal threats that selling will be his only option." That's when I cleared my throat. The room went silent as everyone turned. "Interesting presentation," I said, walking slowly toward the front. "Especially since there is no legal HOA, no authority for fines, and no right to enter my property." Karen's face went white, then red. This is a private meeting. About my private property, I replied, stopping a few feet from her. And your plans to steal it? We're improving the community, she said, regaining her composure. Your ranch is blocking progress. The resort will bring jobs, tourism. Not my problem, I cut her off. Let me be clear, my land is not for sale. Your fake HOA has no power. And if I catch anyone trespassing on my property again, I'll have them arrested. A large man stepped forward, puffing out his chest. He wore a shirt that said, HOA Security. You should watch your tone, old man. I looked at him calmly. 15 years of combat had taught me to recognize threats, and this guy was all show. You should watch your step. Impersonating officials, trespassing, property damage, those are real crimes with real consequences. Karen tried to regain control. Mr. Miller, be reasonable. We're offering fair market value. I'm only going to say this once, I interrupted, my voice quiet but carrying through the room. Stay off my land. All of you. As I turned to leave, Karen called after me, You can't stop progress, Miller. If you won't cooperate, we have other methods. I paused at the door. So do I. Driving home, I knew they'd be coming. People like Karen don't back down when challenged, they escalate. If they were planning a property sweep, I needed to be ready. That night I prepared my ranch. Not with guns or traps, I wasn't looking to hurt anyone. But I'd learned a few things about perimeter security and the seals that these wannabe enforcers were about to discover. They came at 5:30 a.m. just before sunrise. My motion sensors alerted me while they were still on the access road. 5 vehicles, headlights off, moving slowly toward my ranch. I was already awake, watching my security monitors from the kitchen with a cup of coffee in my hand. Through the cameras, I counted 12 people, all wearing black vests with HOA enforcement patches. Some carried flashlights. A few had what looked like tasers. 2 had objects shaped like guns, probably not real firearms but designed to intimidate. They spread out along my fence line, using hand signals like they were in some action movie. I almost laughed. Their tactical formation was something a kid who played too many video games would come up with. But I didn't underestimate them. People playing soldier can be dangerous, especially when they think they have authority. I put on my boots and jacket and waited on my porch in the dark. They didn't know all their movements were being recorded by hidden cameras. Evidence for later. The first group cut the lock on my gate and entered the property. Another team circled toward the barn. Their leader, a tall man with a clipboard, directed them with hand gestures toward my house. When they were halfway up my driveway, I hit the first switch. Instantly, powerful lights flooded the entire front area. They froze, blinded, raising their arms to shield their eyes. Trespassing is illegal in Montana, I called out, my voice calm. So is cutting locks and impersonating officials. The leader squinted against the light. We are conducting an enforcement inspection under the authority of Mountain Valley HOA. I stepped down from the porch. There is no legal HOA here. You're trespassing on private property. Leave now. He pulled out a document. We have authorization to. I hit the second switch. Speakers around the property blared with a recorded announcement. Attention! You are trespassing on private property. Law enforcement has been notified. The truth was, Sheriff Davis was already parked down my access road, waiting. We'd planned this after I'd shown him my security footage of their previous trespassing. 2 of the men panicked and ran back toward the gate. Others looked uncertainly at their leader, who was now shouting into his radio. One man raised his taser-like device at me. That was all the provocation I needed. I pressed the third switch. The sprinkler system I'd modified the day before erupted across the driveway, soaking everyone. Their electronic devices sparked and died in the water. The leader screamed in rage and started toward me, but stopped when headlights appeared and sirens wailed. Sheriff Davis and 3 deputies pulled up, blocking the retreat path. Everyone freeze. Davis shouted through his car speaker. Hands where I can see them. The HOA enforcement team looked around in confusion, suddenly realizing they were caught in a trap of their own making. Sheriff Davis and his deputies rounded up Karen's fake enforcement team within minutes. Soaking wet and embarrassed, they stood in a line as deputies checked their IDs and confiscated their fake badges. The tall leader kept shouting about HOA jurisdiction, even as handcuffs clicked around his wrists. Jack, you want to press charges? Davis asked me as his deputies led the trespassers to patrol cars. Every single one, I replied. Breaking and entering, trespassing, property damage, impersonation of officials, attempted assault. I handed him a flash drive. All my security footage is here, including them cutting my fence last week and smashing my mailbox. Davis nodded, looking at the men in vests. You folks picked the wrong ranch to mess with. One of the younger deputies leaned toward me. Sir, weren't you military? Navy SEAL, I said quietly. 15 years. The deputy grinned. These idiots tried to raid a SEAL's ranch with clipboards and fake badges. By noon, the story had spread through town. My phone rang with calls from neighbors asking what happened. Apparently, other ranchers had received similar notices and threats but hadn't taken them seriously. The local newspaper reporter showed up that afternoon. Mr. Miller, can you tell us what happened? She had a photographer with her who kept taking pictures of my gate, where deputies had documented the cut lock. I kept it simple. People claiming to be from a non-existent HOA tried to raid my property this morning. Sheriff Davis arrested them. Is it true you used your military training to stop them? She asked, eyes wide. I used sprinklers, I replied. And lights. By evening, Sheriff Davis called with news. We found a treasure trove in their vehicles, Jack. Maps of all the ranches in the area, detailed plans for harassment campaigns, scripts for intimidation. And get this, they had fake property transfer documents already drawn up for your ranch, just waiting for a signature. Karen Wellington? I asked. In custody, Davis confirmed. Refusing to talk, but her phone is full of messages from Rocky Mountain Development. They're claiming she went rogue, that they knew nothing about these tactics. The next day brought more surprises. 3 other ranchers came forward with similar stories. One elderly couple had actually signed over their land after weeks of harassment, believing they were facing huge fines. The district attorney called me personally. Mr. Miller, we'd like you to testify. This is looking like organized criminal conspiracy across multiple counties. I agreed, though I hate courtrooms almost as much as I hate fake HOAs. The most satisfying moment came a week later. Karen Wellington and her bosses at Rocky Mountain Development were charged with multiple felonies. The resort project collapsed as investors pulled out, not wanting to be associated with the scandal. The elderly couple who'd lost their ranch were able to void the transfer, as it had been obtained through fraud. They came to my place with a homemade apple pie to thank me for exposing the scheme. Word spread fast in ranch country. Within 2 weeks, my quiet life was turned upside down. Folks I'd barely spoken to in 5 years were stopping by with food, handshakes, and stories about their own run-ins with Karen's fake HOA. They told me my barn was historically inaccurate and needed to be rebuilt, old Joe Thompson said as we sat on my porch. Wanted me to pay them $5,000 for a historical compliance review. Sarah Jenkins from the cattle ranch down the valley brought her family's experience. They measured our fence posts with rulers, Jack. Rulers. Said they were 2 inches too tall according to community standards. When my husband questioned them, they threatened to put a lien on our property. These weren't isolated incidents. Karen and her team had targeted over 30 ranches in 3 counties, all part of the land Rocky Mountain Development wanted for their resort. The company had used similar tactics in 2 other states, pushing out small landowners through intimidation and fake regulations. Sheriff Davis organized a community meeting at the town hall. Over 100 people showed up, the biggest gathering Pine Creek had seen in years. Davis had me speak about recognizing intimidation tactics and documenting harassment. Don't engage with these people alone, I told the crowd. Record everything. Report everything. And remember, in Montana, no one can force you to join an HOA after you've purchased your property. The district attorney stood up next. We found evidence that this was a coordinated campaign targeting specific properties. 6 people have been charged so far, including executives from Rocky Mountain Development. If anyone here has had similar experiences, we need your testimony. 28 people lined up to give statements. The local paper ran a front-page story, Navy SEAL exposes fake HOA scam. The headline made me uncomfortable. I hadn't been a SEAL for 5 years and I didn't want the attention. But if it helped warn others, I could live with it. Something else happened too. The community that had always kept to itself started coming together. Ranchers established a phone tree to alert each other about suspicious activity. We set up a legitimate property owners association. Not an HOA with rules, but a mutual support group. We've been neighbors for years, Bill Harmon said at our first meeting, but we never acted like it until now. He was right. I'd moved to Montana seeking isolation, but found community instead. The most meaningful moment came when Jenny Williams, a 70-year-old widow who'd almost lost her family's ranch to Karen's scheme, stood up at the town meeting. I was scared and alone, she said, voice shaking. They told me I'd lose everything if I didn't sell. I believed them. She turned to me. Then Jack stood up to them and I realized I could too. Sometimes it takes one person to remind us all that we don't have to be victims. I wasn't looking to be anyone's hero. I just wanted my land left alone. But sometimes the battles you don't choose become the ones that matter most. A month after the arrests, life was settling back to normal. The development company executives were out on bail awaiting trial. Karen remained in county jail, denied bail after trying to contact former enforcement officers from her cell. My ranch was peaceful again. Or so I thought. I was fixing a broken water pump when Sheriff Davis pulled up my driveway looking troubled. "Jack, got a minute?" he asked, climbing out of his cruiser. "There's something you should see." He handed me a folder. Inside were service records for 3 of the men arrested in the fake HOA raid. All had military backgrounds. One had been Army Rangers. Another, Special Forces. The third had served in military intelligence. This wasn't just random hiring, Davis said. They specifically recruited ex-military for this operation. I studied the documents, feeling a chill. They wanted people with tactical training. Davis nodded. And it gets worse. FBI found communications between Rocky Mountain and 2 other development companies using the same playbook in different states. They're calling it land consolidation through pressure tactics. They're targeting rural areas all over the West. He showed me a map with red dots across Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and Idaho. Each dot represented a place where suspicious HOA activity had been reported. It's not just about our ranches, I realized. They're trying to take over entire regions. People with money want land, Davis said simply. And they're finding new ways to get it when buying fails. Later that day, I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line, "You're not the only one." Inside was a message, "What happened at your ranch is happening in 12 states. They're using ex-military because we know tactics." I was recruited for my specialized skills but got out when I saw what they were really doing. There are more teams forming. They're learning from mistakes. Next time they won't use fake badges and clipboards. Be careful. The sender's name was blacked out. The email address disappeared when I tried to reply. I called Davis, who promised to forward the message to the FBI. But we both knew the truth, this wasn't over. That evening, I sat on my porch watching the sunset paint the mountains gold. My dogs lounged at my feet, alert but relaxed. The cattle grazed peacefully in the pasture. Everything looked normal. But I noticed things now that I hadn't before. The drone that briefly appeared over the ridge line before vanishing. The car that drove slowly past my gate twice in 1 hour. The unfamiliar hikers photographing property lines with professional cameras. I'd stopped one scheme, but there would be others. People who want something badly enough don't give up easily. They adapt, learn from failure, try new approaches. I sipped my coffee and smiled slightly. Let them come. I'd spent 15 years as a SEAL learning how to protect what matters against superior forces. My ranch was worth protecting. And next time, I'd be ready even before they knocked on my gate.